Welcome for another episode, Live from the Heart podcast. I'm Anne-Claire Meret. I'm very happy to welcome you today for another episode with Fabrice Maravigna. We did record an episode just now that I'm probably going to publish both either at the same time or 1 week apart so that it's like a rendezvous. You can meet us again. And the first episode was mostly about food and this journey to understanding what works for you. And it was super interesting to see how a lot of people go through the same process, that they need to detox and then they found their balance, their harmony by making different experiences. And it all comes back to what works for you. So this is, it was fascinating. Thank you, Fabrice. Welcome again for this episode where we're going to dive into different topics. You will not introduce yourself again because I invite people to just go back to there, and we're going to start right away. And because we were finishing about food, I would like to start again with food, and that we talk about two different things, but which are actually very tied up, which is the fact that today it's not easy to eat well when you're not aware and when you didn't open your eyes on the truth of this world and on how this world functions. And the fact that everything is toxic on purpose because it makes us sick and it's tied up to big pharma and everything. And the second thing is this wokeness culture that we live in, and that you're a good person if you speak your gender when you meet someone and you're very careful with the words you use, when you're vegan because you don't kill animals, when you're blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? There is this kind of... they build up this person, this ideal person who people should be if they're a good person, which is total bullshit. And that then people disconnect from their true selves. Can we talk about all of that from the point and start that you want? You choose where to start.
That's an exciting menu you have for us, Anne-Claire. But yeah, these are subjects of actuality, and we do suffer from a lot of censorship. Also, the way the information is presented to us is obviously following a specific agenda. So yeah, for sure, we're going to have to talk about this. And to wrap it up on that food chapter, I think a lot of people go vegan and vegetarian in the beginning because they may become intolerant to gluten or to meat. And it has nothing to do with the bread or the meat itself. It has everything to do with how it is produced. So during my journey of, asking myself so many questions and just challenging the status quo, challenging what I was told, just to double check, actually, I realized that we live in a world, and probably most of your listeners are already tuned into that, but it's always nice to hear it through someone else, because we all put our words differently, and sometimes it helps us to gain context. So on my food journey, I realized that we currently live in a world where capitalism is predominant. In fact, often in a society, the most important man in a Western country is going to be the richest man, the most successful man. Whereas in the West, it's always been who is the wisest, who has the wisdom from the heart that is going to last many generations, versus the capitalistic approach, which is take and burn everything you can as quick as you can, and then what, right? So, but unfortunately, we are born in a world, and the rules are like that. It's changing. Don't worry, guys, it's changing. But because it's based on money, everything has changed. So we used to produce small farms, and now if you buy some chicken, maybe it comes from like a warehouse with 10,000 chickens that never see the sun and are just injected with growth hormones and antibiotics. And not only it's disgusting from an ethical point of view to just treat a life like that, but it costs our health, because a human should not put that shit in their bodies. But unfortunately, many of us, we are parents, we are busy, we are learning stuff, we are working, and we don't have so much time to pause and reflect and ask questions. We just look around, we copy, we mirror each other, and we end up doing 95% of what our parents were doing, and the rest is just we learn on the way. So what I realized with the food industry is that some people who didn't put much time into the question, they will call us conspiracy theorists, whereas people who actually looked into the data, we do realize there is a big picture, and I'm gonna to do my best to try and articulate that big picture, and we can go from there. So basically, with a capitalistic model, you have a group of people in charge, a group of leaders, if you will, and how those leaders are leading is through controlling the food industry. We see that with just controlling the food industry, let's say. So the idea is like, hey, how about we get people sick? We don't kill them right away, but we get them sick over 20 or 30 years, so that all those people end up spending all the money that they save their whole life in their 50s, 60s, and 70s for cancer, for diabetes, for heart attacks, and the rest of it. So it sounds crazy. Why would your government try to kill you? But actually, it's not that simple. It's like they don't try to kill us. I mean, they do, but they do it slowly. And big pharma is one of the biggest industry in the world. Hear me out. Big pharma is one of the biggest industry in the world. So to sell your medicine, to sell your pills, to sell your scans, you need people to be sick. If everybody is healthy and vibrant, we don't actually need much of big pharma. What we would need, for example, would be a surgeon. Let's say you have a bike accident and you break your arm. I'm so happy to have medicine and science who know my bones and my tendons and how to put it back together. I respect and like that aspect of modern science and medicine. But in the big picture, by design, they need consumers to buy their products. So for a nation to buy those products, you need a nation that is getting sicker and sicker. If you start to look into that, you start to realize that during the Second World War, a lot of neurotoxin chemicals that was not used for the war was then recycled into our water. And slow and steady, fluoride, mercury, all kind of crazy shit end up in the water, in the food, in the vaccines, and it's deplorable. It's Machiavellic. But because the industry is money based, it's like until it all collapses, it's not going to stop. So then you have people who understand that and go very, very deep into that subject, and people who cannot simply cope with it, or just, they're not there yet. So that's what I would like to try and articulate, is that you start with the food, but then you realize there is a tapestry, there is a bigger picture here. Our leaders control the food industry, the problem and the solution, so the food industry and the pharma, but they also control the media. In the past, when everybody was living in a village, it was religion who was sort of like keeping everybody on the same page. And as people came out of their villages and their countries, and now we live in a global sort of society, how they program us to think is through how they present the information to us. And it's slow and steady. It's a slow and steady drip. And then people formulate ideas and opinions in their mind of how things may work that is actually rigged. Like right off the bat, you cannot win this game if you think the way you've been told to think at school. So hear me out. School is another apparatus of the Machiavellic machine. We put The children, we remove them from playing in the dirt and observing the birds and the sky to tell them history, his story, meaning the new leader's story, not the actual truth of what happened. Just, hey, you're going to play our game now. Here is the narrative. So kids are in indoctrination camps from school. Then we turn into young adults. The only expertise we have is the ability to parrot what we've been told. We didn't even have a chance to double check and verify if it's actually correct or not. And that's just to set up, if you will, like a foundation for this podcast today with you, Anne-Claire. But the more you wake up to the nature of what we call the matrix, the more you actually can see very simply and very clearly how it works. And then it's your choice if and when you decide to engage with this toxic system, because it also has, it's not just toxic and bad and negative. That would be unfair to judge the world as it is today as just, it's just shit. It's not like that. But there are some very important points to consider, and it's very important to understand how our mind is molded and crafted by an invisible hand who is basically living off the many. So for very few people to live the most comfortable life, they need at the bottom of the pyramid billions of us, head in the wheel, no time to stop, always stressed out, always afraid of the next thing, to keep us in fear, to keep us in low frequencies, so we cannot realize what's actually going on. But by the grace of life itself, there is a collective awakening. This awakening started in the 70s with the hippies taking LSDs and challenging religion and government. And it's been a slow and steady evolution. And now in the last 10 years, we've seen a tremendous amount of adults coming to their senses and realizing what we are born into and how to extract ourselves from that and create our own matrices, which are actually supporting us and giving back to the system that we create ourselves, not for someone else.
Yeah.
How is that for
And
an
it takes
intro?
a lot of courage. That was a great intro. Thank you. It takes courage. It takes courage to open your eyes. And I remember I had a sense of what was happening before, but I think I didn't really care about a lot of things because I thought I had a lot of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my freedom was taken away because of COVID, when I couldn't travel, then I went down the rabbit hole, and I really had to face what I didn't want to face before, which means child trafficking, which means how they're harvesting people's energy, and lots of things, like how much bigger it was than I thought it was. And it was painful. It was painful. 2020, I cried every day. But
It's
it was
disturbing. Yeah.
very much. But it was great at the same time, because when I stopped being lethargic and only looking at what was happening, and I came back to this fire inside of me of, I don't want that, then I had even more power to choose the world that I want to create, and actually to set myself in motion in order to have, an impact in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
There is a sequence about starting to think and question things, to being very angry and pissed off and outraged, to realize we cannot stop that, but what we can do instead is stop participating in that game and create and be the change, like Michael Jackson said, 20 years ago, be the change you want to be. That's the truth of it.
Yeah. If we take a higher view, and not only look at nowadays, 2024, and who we are now, if we just like an eagle, together we were talking before we started this episode. You were talking about cycles and how the earth has cycles, and the civilizations have cycles and everything, and that if we have more awareness of that, then we might also be less reactive when things are happening right now, a little bit more creative, because we know that this is part of a grander scheme. Can you
Mhm.
touch on that?
Whew, wow, that's a loaded, magnificent question, Anne Claire. I think I'd like to start with, if you want to know the future, you need to understand the past. And this is why there is a tremendous war on knowledge and information and how it is fed and presented to us. This is also why every time an empire takes over the previous empire, they burn all the libraries. The library of Alexandria, the other one in Turkey, or like it's been like so many, so many um, books burned just because if you're gonna to create a new narrative, you need the previous one to be gone, right? So we are born in amnesia. We don't even know the true history. We just know the story that we have been told, which is absolutely not the truth. I challenge anyone listening to this podcast today to start looking into very ancient maps, world maps from the 1500s, maps that the Vatican has in its vault for a long time, friends, and other powerful organizations, Um, the Illuminatis, the Freemasons, like all those scary big names. These are groups of people that are in the business of controlling um, others, in a sense, for their own benefits. And I don't want to make any statements, like I don't want to attack anyone. Like that's not what I'm saying. Everybody plays the game they came to play in this incarnation. Everybody make the choices they want. But just to be clear, we don't even know where we come from. And I've been studying ancient books from the 1700, 1800, 1900s, some ancient maps and cartography of the world with different. California was an island in the 1500s. Antarctica didn't have an ice cap, and there are maps with the animals and the fauna and the flora of all the continents at that time, and stuff that you cannot make up. You cannot make that shit up. So what I came to realize, and that's very deep actually, it's hardcore to dive into that straight up, but what I came to realize is that on this planet there are cycles and resets. The last big reset that nobody can argue on was the Great Flood with Noah's Ark. Actually, it was more than one ark, but that's another story. So what happened then is all of a sudden people don't know how and why, but the levels of water rose so much that a lot of cities and civilizations that were around the coastlines disappeared overnight. And if you just look at a map today of any country, 80% of the population live near the ocean, within like 100 miles or so, 150 kilometers from the ocean. You can just see it with your own eyes. So every time there is a reset, we lose most of the collective wisdom that we had as a civilization. And then we start again from the scratch. So imagine, if you will, people like you and I experience one of those cataclysms, and the survivors, the first thing that we need is to find a refuge. So we're gonna to probably find a cave or a rock formation with a roof, get a fire, try to get some water, and then we go back in making our tools, trying to hunt, survival. And when I look at caves like Clamouse and Lascaux in south of France, they are world renowned for their art. But my pick on that is that those people were not baboons coming out of the trees and the forests, and they were not apes. They were survivors of their previous civilization. And as a matter of fact, they've mapped astrological things and all kind of pieces from their culture, from their time, that they thought was important to record and pass down. Um, so to add on to that, most of us have a fascination or an innate curiosity for pyramids. Okay, maybe you just know the pyramids of Egypt, but if you start to look into pyramids, you're gonna to be flabbergasted. They are everywhere in Bosnia, in China. They are hidden in plain sight. It's so easy to see from a simple plain photography. Thousands of pyramids all around the world, in Central America, Mexico, you name them, they are everywhere. So why is it that we had an era on this planet where the building style was pyramids? We don't learn that at school. We are told the absolute bullshit, deception, as always, inversion. If you program bullshit in people's head, they cannot think straight. So that's the game. That the dark force, so-called the dark force, that's the game they play. And people like us, we're like, hey, we're gonna have to figure that shit out together and be happy. So that's a game, the game of light and polarity. But at one time on planet Earth, we understood that we can harness electricity just from water, granite, limestone, and basic chemical reactions. So a pyramid is not a tomb for pharaohs and or whatever the academia was fed us with is distorted, and I'm 100% sure of that. So these were electricity generators, and they were distributing the electricity to entire cities, and that's why we had pyramids all around the world, because basically some of the previous eras, the leadership was very different. It was perhaps matriarchal at time, at other time it was patriarchal again, but basically humans were not struggling just to pay their bills, because food was abundant everywhere and free pretty much, and electricity was also abundant and free pretty much. And then we see a giant reset. So whatever the wisdom of that civilization was, it came to an end. Everything is cyclical, and we had new uh, a new era, if you will. Some may call it Tartaria. Tartaria was a very vast empire all across India, what we know today as Russia, also Asia, and a little bit of Europe, and even Australia. So Tartaria style of buildings are all those old cathedrals with very pointy roof that are in fact antenna, again to harvest electricity, same style as Tesla. We harvest it from the ether, and that's to tell you how crooked even our physics and our archaeological findings, and like everything is controlled the way it's presented to us, so we don't figure out that shit. But I don't feel endangered to speak this, because I'm aware that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have reached similar conclusions already. And this, my friends, is because we are approaching the end of this cycle, and that's perhaps for later in this conversation. If you're not aware that everything is going wrong right now with Fukushima in Japan and the financial system about to collapse and the way we grow food and we do things, then you're fully asleep, right? Most of us, we feel that something is off and we pray for change, but the change will happen because that's the end of a civilization, and it's like a river drying slowly. So just to touch on Tartaria, for those of you who like this kind of stuff, it was a beautiful type of architecture. The buildings were gorgeous, tasteful, sacred geometry, and they were all doing also the same stuff, like free electricity for the people. And then all of a sudden, another, not a global reset, but a local reset happened. For example, in Europe, I'm not sure how we say that in French, but Gibraltar. It's between at the bottom of Spain and the top of Africa. Basically, there is if my geography is correct, yeah. So the
Détroit in French.
Détroit, the Détroit. Okay, let's put a French word. Le Détroit de Gibraltar. Um, I've found evidence in my research that at some point it's only 2 miles wide, but it was kind of a giant dam or something. I'm not sure how, but a giant flood happened in one day, and the Mediterranean Sea was created in one day. And we find evidence now with divers finding 100 tons granite plates of buildings and constructions that are just scattered over 50 miles, just to show the force and the volume of water that came through those gates. And so, yeah, just like that, we go from one era to the next, one era to the next. And it seems that our leaders are very well informed about those cycles, and that's why their games are planned on centuries. Whereas for the average person, they cannot even plan for next week. They live, the consciousness is still in survival mode and taking care of just feeding themselves and their family and paying their bills. And so they don't have the space and the bandwidth to start looking into all of that. So I'm sorry, I know that's a lot to drop in a few minutes, but I know many of you are going to resonate with that truth, because you can hide the truth, but it seems to always prevail. It's just how it's always been.
It does. And there are a lot of cover ups also, and they're using, I feel that they're using the truth to just add lies on top of it and just make another story. Let's talk for a moment about global warming, if we can. So
Hmm.
this global warming, and this is our fault because we produce too much, and the garbage and the pollution and everything that we're doing, we're creating the weather modification, us humans. Uh,
Hmm.
I never thought it was the truth. I always thought there was some big bullshit about that, and that the
Hmm.
earth just needs to be left alone. And yes, we damage the environment because we overproduce and everything, and big factories and everything. But the earth has its own cycles, and it's going to change in the future, and we can get ready for that. And it's not because we're going to tax people on traveling that we're going to change anything. So can do you want to talk about that?
Sure. And I mean, we should have maybe given a trigger warning at the beginning of this podcast, because all of us, including myself and you and Claire, we've created an identity and we are comfortable with what we believe about the moon, about this, about that. Everybody has their own idea of how the world tick. And when someone come and present an information that is so different, it creates a dissonance and a resistance, and people will fight for their righteousness, for their identity, rather than being able to receive the truth. So, global warming is very funny to me, and I'm not going to apologize, guys, but once you do your homework, you realize it's all part of the same plan and agenda. Okay, the agenda is to put so much weight on people's shoulders that they break. Let me say that again. The agenda is to create so much confusion, a sense of, look at those guys over there, they are the bad guys, and here we are the good guys, and the black and the white and the this, and like people are still stuck in subjects like judging a human being on the cover instead of reading the book. I mean, we cannot help people who think that way in 2024. I'm sorry. We're talking about unity here, and the agenda that's pushed upon us is about distracting people, confusing people, and separating people. It's very clear. It's very loud and clear. So global warming is funny because the very people who promote that are the same people who travel in private jets every single day. Um, they are very much aware. So, like you said, yes, the industry sucks, and we could and should do things better, like the previous civilizations before us. I'm not even talking about Atlantis and Lemuria. I'm not even going to go like too much in the realm of imagination and possibilities. I'm just based on books from all around the world that have been written by sages, by wise people, men and women over the centuries. If you collect all that data, and I need to plug Jason from Archaics here on YouTube, because a lot of my recent models, the credit goes to this man. I really, really respect this dude, and it's incredible the work he's done, you know. But for me, I've studied like 20 or 30 guys like him, and I'm putting a picture together which sounds, it makes more sense at least than the current model that we have. Okay, when I was 7 years old and someone told me at school that the pyramids of Egypt were built by slaves with copper tools, I knew at 7 years old they were bullshitting us. But yet the adults are so preoccupied with going by the day, they don't care. They take it, oh, these people are very smart, Fabrice, they've studied for 10 years to become archaeologists, you know, for sure they know more than you. And I'm like, but 100 ton pink granite block, okay, all right. So anyways, sorry, I like my little tangents, and Claire, here and then.
But this
What was
is
the
common sense. It comes back to common sense again.
Well, but it comes down also that if there was an experience conducted several times, we put 10 people in a room and a new person enters the room. And every single time, every 30 seconds, there is a beep going on, and all the people stand up and then sit down. It's absolutely ridiculous. The first 2 or 3 times, the new person that came into the room look at everybody around and they're like, what the fuck's going on here? That's so weird. But then after 3 or 4 times, they don't want to be rejected, and they think, I must be the dumb here. I don't understand what's going on, and I should do like everybody else. So they start to go up and down every 30 seconds, and the people go to the doctor or they go through the door in the waiting room. At the end of it, that person is totally alone in that room, and she just keep on going up and down by herself like a monkey. And I'm sure that our leaders are fucking laughing out of their heads
Oh, yeah.
to by for them it's a game. It's a game of humiliating people and ridiculing people until they wake up. So to wake up means you need to challenge the status quo. It doesn't mean you need to be a dick, you need a gun, you need to be forceful. No, but you do need to get uncomfortable and roll up your sleeves and start looking at the data that was presented to you since you were a baby. And same to our parents and grandparents. It's very hard to interrupt those patterns, right? Um, so I'm not sure. I went on a tangent and then I could not come back and finish my message, so I forgot what I was talking about at some levels. I'm sorry, but anyways, this is just a podcast to throw a lot of new concept to stimulate and excite the listener, because you're not alone, guys. Some of us, we are balls deep in doing the research, creating, putting community together, going back to free energy, going back to sustainable living, and all of that. You know.
Yeah. It feels to me that everything is accelerating. Like there was COVID, and then wars, and then there is transgenderism, and so many things in just a few years. Is it more effort put to confuse us, or is it some kind of higher wisdom which is just pressuring us, like charcoal, and then we become diamond because there is this period of time where actually we have to be under pressure so that we can reveal who we truly are? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So quickly on the issue of transgenderism, uh, I would say, as always, it's not all black and white. Okay, I have two people in my life that were men and became women. One of them did that very successfully, and I'm not going to share any names or whatever. And I do respect that person in the sense that she was very early, and it's kind of an incarnation thing. The soul come in the body and is so connected to the previous incarnation, it refuses to accept the physical body that it's in. And it's kind of I kind of look at this reality like a computer simulation. Okay, that's my newest model. The earth is either round or flat. It's a video game that is projecting on the screen of your life whatever your beliefs are internally. So let me say that again. Even though we think we live all in the same world, actually everybody is in their own inner verse. And the simulacrum or the giant computer system is projecting the contrast that we need to grow and harmonize. So with transgenderism, the basic agenda is just like extreme veganism and soy milk and all of that. It's to confuse people, it's to destroy families, uh, get rid of all the alpha males who could protect or retaliate, you know, getting men very feminine, very weak, video games, porn, all kind of stimulus that's gonna to fuck them up, literally. And so with transgenderism, there are a few exceptions and people who are in their absolute truth and who follow psychology and they get accompanied with hormone therapy and thing and that. But I mean, that's an extreme minority and they've always been around. These people have always been around. In Central America, you know, the natives over there, they actually consider those people like oracles and divinatory beings and stuff like that. But what we are proposed with today is the prostitution of that. What I mean by prostitution of that is now they try to make it normal for a kid to choose their gender. And I mean, I'm sorry, friends, what a woman does that a transgender probably won't be able to do is a woman can give birth. A woman can bear a child or two and give birth. And this is how civilizations and communities are thriving, is because we have women whose main gift is to be able to give birth. A man who put some long hair and some makeup and do some hormone therapy and speak in a feminine voice, to me, to me personally, it feels like those people have been in a lot of pain in their childhood. And so, because we don't know what people go through when they are little, some people are physically abused and raped and beaten up and all kind of crazy shit in the world. Because we live in a crazy world, we are at the end of a civilization. So we're gonna have to see more and more anomalies like that coming up. But basically, all I'm saying is, uh, you know, in Thailand, they've done that for 50 years very gracefully. Just go to Thailand, people joke around, you know, I'm a transgender, I'm a tranny, I'm a transsexual, I'm a pansexual, whatever. Who cares about your sexuality? But to say that a man can call himself a woman and a woman can call themselves a man, it just creates confusion. And that's a whole agenda. Uh, you know, people make a lot of jokes and stuff to illustrate that. But for me, my values are community and family. And if I had someone in my life who was going through that, I would probably be loving and try to give them support, just to be clear. But in a more general term, to try and make us transphobic or fat phobic, you know, that's vicious. If someone is morbidly obese, he needs his tribe to tell him, hey bro, hey sis, I'm sorry, I feel your pain, but like you're in self-destruction and you cannot go a long time like that. Okay, so it's not about shaming people, it's the power of humans. We are keeping each other in check for the survival of the tribe. These are my views. I know they're gonna to trigger some people. I try to articulate it the best I can. I have no hate and judgment on any. People can live their life how they want, basically. Who cares how you like to love and to be loved and stuff? But if I identify as whatever, as a cat, well, go to Japan for that, guys. If I identify as a billionaire and I go to the bank, I'm sorry, my bank account is still empty. You know, so it's ridiculous. And we should just stop that conversation once and for all if you are healthy and understand that most of these people are in pain. They need help, they need love, they need to digest and process their trauma, they need to be heard. Okay, they need help, but they shouldn't lead by example. I'm sorry. And then again, if truly you are one of those soul and you are a magical soul, it will speak for itself just because of how you're gonna to emanate into this world, and you will be successful and you will be magnetic, and that's because it's your highest truth. And so for this as well, I have space in my heart to accept that everything is possible. We live in an infinite reality, and that's my pick on that, Anne Claire.
Hmm. Thank you. That was beautiful. Also, I want to acknowledge that we cannot force people to see us in a different way that they see us.
Well, this
Like,
is delusion. This is delusional, okay? You cannot
yes,
project expectations and get easily offended because I see a man and I say he and whatever. So we
yeah,
most people who are balanced, we know that, but again with peer pressure and the fake media programming this and pushing that and making people like you're a bad person if you shame this and this and that. It's not about shaming, guys. uh, Society needs some kind of rules to operate. And if you disagree with that, try and have a family. Try and just have a husband and two kids, and tell me that your house can be okay with no rules around the house. Because it can't. It just can't. So we need agreements amongst us. And if you keep on changing agreements, then go and play with people who want to play your game, but don't expect the rest of the world to play that game. It's as simple as that. Same with religion, same with so many things, with spirituality. The idea is not to push and force that onto other people. Just find the people who think like you, and have a happy life. By all means, I wish you that. But if you come with a gun on my head to tell me that your religion is better than mine, or that your gender is different, I don't get it, and I won't play that game. I'm like, that's how it is.
yeah. How, for the people who feel isolated today, discovering all of those truths and who finds that it resonates right for them inside of them, but they're surrounded by, I want to call them normies, by people who don't want to see, people who took the vaccine because peer pressure, with people who wear the mask, still do, all those people.
Some people are still wearing the masks. I found one or two at the gym four
I
years
know,
later.
it's insane. So
It's
what do you
crazy.
want to say to people who feel a bit isolated with everything that they're discovering?
Well, I want to say, you suck it up, fam, because there is no other way. This is the way to wake up so that you make changes in your life. If you find that nobody around you validates what you intrinsically feel and tap into, maybe it's a good time to travel and try and see other cultures, other places in the world. There are many hotspots, like Bali, Thailand, Costa Rica, Portugal, you name it. There are so many spots where people are multicultural, come from all corners of the world, and we meet there because we've reached similar conclusions. But if you stay in a city where the game is to impress your neighbor with a shitty car that you took a 6 years loan on just to impress someone who doesn't care, like that's very much 1990s, guys. And I'm sorry to tell you that who cares about how much money you have in the bank if you are empty, if you are not socially emotionally intelligent, if you spend your money on handbags and nice cars instead of making a difference, in people's who need it the most. I don't get it. I don't want to get, like, again, too judgmental. Sometimes I prefer to tell myself this is discernment, and discernment is necessary. But um yeah, first you need to realize, okay, I'm not in the right place, because these people, based on my new model of living in a simulation, if you will, I've started to play with the idea that some people are not even real people. They are NPCs, non-physical characters in the background, just like, exactly like you play a video game and you're driving and you see all those trees and those, like, the context. So the idea is, this life is your opportunity to wake up. What does it mean to wake up? To remember that you are life itself. I'm not just Fabrice, you're not just Anne Claire. Life is what's animating us. And in the early stages of awakening, people are so much in their ego construct, so much in their beliefs, that they don't realize there is another identity, which is a sort of a different octave of consciousness, where you realize, wow, the same life animates us all. And I am that life, and you are that life as well. And all together, we are the same energy of life who wants to play and mingle and create. And then the game brings us the contrast with the bad boys, the bad girls, not to offend anybody here. And it brings us the contrast to help us build our muscles, our courage, and to take the hero's journey into the mystery. You gotta have direct experiences, guys. You cannot read 200 books on swimming, present yourself to me as the fucking swimming expert, and then I take you on a boat, you fall on the boat, and you've never swim. Never. This is ridiculous, but yet that's how 95% of the experts are today. They don't even know what they're talking about, you know? So we don't focus on that so much. I did that for many years, and then I realized I was wasting my time. Now I focus on all the other people who realize the same thing. And those people usually take care of their health. They try to get financially independent and not in survival. They try to get closer and develop their network and their friends and cultivate meaningful, authentic friendships instead of going to a shit job that pays you $2,000 a month or what else, working with an idiotic boss. Everybody's in competition, everybody's bitching. It's a horrible life to be in the matrix. And don't get me wrong, I started there. I started there myself. I don't know about you, Anne Claire, but I come from the
Yeah.
matrix, you know. So all of us who have the spark, you guys need to take action. You need to create new habits, new patterns in your world. And for sure, if you start to align your actions with following your inner compass, which is your heart, instead of a dissonant programmed mind, you follow your heart, then life will support you, and you will find your way by following your heart. And I'm sure that's one of your biggest teachings anyway. So it's a you know,
It
we all
is.
say the same thing using different words basically.
Yeah. And we can live in the same world, where one part of it is just turning to shit and experience a whole other reality where we feel that we have great relationships and we have abundance and we have health. And we see that on the other side, people are struggling very much. And yes, I do believe the world is going to get worse, but it doesn't mean that we have to get worse at the same time. We can totally create something else that's going to be parallel to that, and we can, yeah,
Yes,
we create us.
yes. On this, and Claire, it's like there is a collective reality, and that collective reality, it's going in one direction, and whoever the leaders of that particular era, they go in that direction. That's just the game of consciousness. That's how consciousness works. And but at the same time that we have a collective reality, we have an individual reality, which means you can position yourself on that grid. You can choose the coordinates of where you are, and we've seen that during COVID. You know, some of us had, I'm sorry to say that, I don't want to be rude, I know some people had it so fucking hard and dramatic, and some of us had the best years of our life as well, and even more opportunity. And how is that even possible if we all live in the same reality? It's because how you perceive and respond to life vibrationally, you are gonna to be fed a different movie and a different stimulus. And so yeah, we cannot live in victim it and cry about it. This is just the beginning of the awakening. Like you say, it's gonna to accelerate. I'm not a very religious person this day, and but I do believe that one of the gift of the Bible was they talk about the seven seals of the apocalypse. and this was apparently documented. These are the sequences that take place before a civilization reset. And so again, based on the work of Jason on Archaics on YouTube, it really feels like we are approaching that reset. And some of us we all wake up, give or take 30 years around the same time. Okay, so some of us were woke 10 years ago and already question what's in the vaccines and why do I find some neurotoxin like aluminum, like mercury in a vaccine. And some other people always trusted the science and the people wearing that white coat and said, "Oh, they're smarter than me. They would never hurt me." But hey, guys, just start to look at how many vaccines have been implemented at school by the time your kid is 10 years old in the last 20 years, and the number of cases of autism and epilepsy and all of that. There is an obvious link. There is no argument here. If you tell me it's not related, that's because you cannot assume your decisions. But um, yeah. So again, I'm lost because I just I just talk too much sometimes. But
We
you know,
might wrap this up here.
sometimes I'm on a run.
um,
Yeah. Sorry, it was about the how COVID basically was the first seal, because the people who don't wake up, it's rather they're gonna to be forced into the awakening because they've been slacking and watching too much Netflix instead of doing something else with their life, or they're gonna to be recycled and come back and keep on reincarnating for endless lives until they reach similar conclusions. But the first seal was expressed through COVID. And then for the next like 20 years, we're going to have an acceleration with until it gets so outrageous and so insane out there that people have to do something about it other than bitching, until they buy some land, until they start to grow their own food, until they start to build their own bunkers, whatever it may be for them to get prepared for a global reset. Okay, so it's not going to slow down. Unfortunately, the temperature is going to keep on rising, and all we can do is to humble down and find our tribe. And again, in the end, fam, it's not something nice to say, but in the end, all of us, we die. Okay, as a human being, we come into this dream, into this simulation. Maybe on the other side, we have a headset on our head, and the whole lifetime is just 20 minutes. I don't know, but all I'm saying is eventually we all have to die. That's part of this construct. That's part of human nature. So how do you live your life is so much more important than being a coward and trying at all costs not to take any risk, not to say anything that could hurt anyone. you know like, how you live your life is what you keep with you, what you take with you when you transition. And that's another subject. Reincarnation, near death experiences, all of that has been documented so much. The nature of consciousness is infinite. And for me, my brothers and sisters who are waking up, you're going to have to see that the next 10 years can be disgraceful, painful, horrible. Or at the same time, we have all those tools like crypto, like AI, like everything is coming to accelerate the possibility for you to manifest your exodus of this matrix, of this crazy world. Um, but again, that's another conversation, because a lot of spiritual brothers and sisters out there, they reject technology. They think AI is evil and it's going to kill us all and blah, 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 blah. So that's very interesting conversation. Maybe at the occasion we can have that one as well. And Claire, I think
I
our
would love
role
that.
is to embrace reality, to embrace it and to make sense of it, instead of trying to reject and push away aspects of reality. We can transmute it ourselves. It's every human being has this potential, but for sure there is work to do, right? There are steps on our journey. Wake up, clean your body, change your thinking, find the right people, get a bit more money in the bank, tack tack, and you continue like that. You keep on growing and transmuting.
Yeah. Thank you for tapping onto that and also talking about free will, because although this is, we're not going to have control over what's going to happen in the collective, but we have so much control that we can have right now, just here and now, just with the resources we already have, and trust that in the future we're going to have more resources because we're going to build more awareness, because we have curiosity, and because things will happen that will just help us reveal the resources. So future me will know better also. So I like to remember that, but only because I choose to be
Hmm.
interested in all of that and to grow as a person right now in this world. So yeah, we're not lost.
No, we're far from lost. In fact, the end of a civilization is the greatest opportunity for a soul to wake up. It's the final game, if you want. It's the big boss. But in the end, when you wake up, you are always fighting against yourself. It's a big ass illusion. We are one. Some of us understand that differently, but life is not our enemy. And if you live in fear, you contract. Life cannot be channeled through you, just like a water hose. If you pinch it, the water cannot flow through the water hose. So every time we are in fear, we shrink, we contract, we cut ourselves from the flow of life, we cut ourselves from our intuition, from our guidance. And yeah, like we all gonna to have to make a stand, and the sooner the better, because at the end there is not so much choice. But what's interesting is, I mean, for the last 20 years or 30 years, every time people were speaking the truth, they just randomly die and disappear. And it's kind of a big deal as a human being to be okay with that possibility but not focusing on it. Because what I'm thinking is, like, people in resonance, people who are listening to your podcast today, surely there is a resonance for those souls to receive those words today. Otherwise they would be playing football or whatever, I don't know, like whatever else, there will be somewhere else, right? So the people who need to hear this message today, it takes balls, in a way. It takes courage to speak your truth. But what else can we do, guys? If we're gonna to make it, it's gonna to be a collective effort, and therefore we need to call for the others out there. And you cannot do that by just staying quiet and yeah, and just playing small. Like, you can't. We need each other to survive and to live, not just survive, to thrive. But in the context of an end of a civilization, it would be kind of cool to see thousands or hundreds of thousands of small community, or millions even if we could, but like small communities popping right, left, and center, where people all realize the same thing. We need to go back to the basics. We took it too far with how we do things. Our leaders are not serving the public as public servants anymore. They are literally taking the piss, and they are laughing at our face, and they are forcing us to do ridiculous shit. They put us in jail for 2 years for absolutely no reason, no science. And guess what? I got death threats in 2020 for posting what I was posting about COVID and the vaccine. And now, 3 years later, the evidence speaks for itself. People are getting sick, all new kind of autoimmune bullshit. Um, I'm not talking about vaccine damage or any of that. We may be careful to put that on YouTube though, because all those words we're speaking on YouTube with AI now, they're filtering all of that. So, anyways,
It's
all I'm
okay.
saying is, yeah, all I'm saying is, now the evidence come out, and the same people on TV that I don't watch, but the same people on TV who were promoting those jabs, now they realize it was forceful. We didn't have enough time to realize truly what are the implications of altering a human's DNA. I mean, guys, these are very, very scary, disturbing subjects. We are changing our own DNA in the name of science. Look, I don't know much about religion, but the mark of the beast come to mind for me. And I think those of us who dodge those bullets and are questioning, if life wants us to succeed, then please bless us and protect us and keep us, like between walls, so to speak, because we're gonna to need each other, and we're just gonna also to need to get creative, to get resourceful, and to make it fun, right? Because
Yeah.
what else? If that's the mission in this life, I don't know. That's a
I'm
lot,
having
and
fun.
well, you surely have a great, great, life, and but that's also because of who you are and how you treat people and everything else. And Claire, you're a wonderful human being, and we're so grateful to be
You
connected
too.
for sure.
Find the others. That's the thing. If okay, let's wrap it up. Find the others. You're not
Yeah.
alone in there. Many other people think like we think, and the more we'll speak about it, the more it will be easy to talk about it, and the less it will be awkward to have different points of view, just because it's going to be the new normal to understand that there is another way to see the world that we live in, and let's make it happen by talking about it. Thank you
Yeah,
so
that's
much,
that's the kind
Fabrice.
of new normal that I subscribe to as well. That
Yeah,
possibility. And again, like 30 years ago, that was so taboo. But I've heard the pieces that I share with you today. I've heard them from someone else, from someone else, from someone else over the last 10 years, 20
yeah,
years. It's not my truth. It's a collective truth,
it
and
is.
that's why we're waking up. We're waking up of that dream.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you
I
so
hope you
much.
I hope you have some sweet dreams tonight, everyone. And go and start looking at ancient maps and cartography and plenty of other cool stuff to open your perspectives if you have time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Make yourself a tinfoil hat and
Yeah.
be ready for what's coming.
That looks cool. Tinfoil looks good.
Fabrice, if people want to follow you, get in touch with you, learn from you, can you share what you have to offer?
I mean, yeah, that would be just on Instagram these days. And then I feel I'm gonna to move slowly off the grid, maybe, not
Telegram?
completely balance. Yeah, yeah. The thing is, I just don't have the physical time to talk to people, to meet new people like that. If it's organic and they enter my life, it's one thing. But um, all I can do at this stage is find the others and create content and give the tools to my brothers and sisters to equip themselves. And then
Yeah.
Instagram is the platform I use. But yeah, they've been censoring all the good shit that I post on there, and
Yeah, I
I'm
see.
definitely blacklisted for sure because of my message. But some of us have to do it. I don't feel like a martyr or a sacrifice or anything. I just feel if sufficient amount of brothers would grab their balls and become a Shiva Buddha kind of warrior with the wisdom of the heart, but also the physical protective strength of the masculine, we wouldn't see half of the shit that we see today. And so
Thank you for that.
it takes a few of us, to
Yeah.
remind that to the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Love you very much, and Claire. Thank you for the
Me
opportunity
too.
to putting that out there, and good luck.
Thank
Good
you.
luck
And
to
I recommend everyone to follow your crypto school because you're also teaching financial sovereignty, and check out what Fabrice is offering with his wife because this is very valuable. I made a lot of money thanks to you, and you're helping so many people connected to their hearts and willing to be sovereign. Thank you for doing that.
On that note, sorry to interfere, but our school is closed. We've reached the max students actually,
Ah, voilà.
and we just don't have. It's a personal one-on-one kind of vibe with what we do. It's not a number game. So unfortunately, at the same time, this container is packed for now. But I would like in the future to create maybe containers together and Claire and see if there is a demand and people need more guidance with and context with what we're talking about today, because we barely scratched the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. So for those of you who are committed to prepare in that direction, maybe we can create a container in the future to direct those people together.
I love that. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Have a
thank you
nice day.
again. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it around you. If you want more content with Fabrice, send me a message and let me know what you want to know about, and then I'll schedule another meeting for another episode. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.